The cologne hit me first. Not my Old Spice, not the generic drugstore stuff I've been wearing for 15 years. This was expensive, the kind that comes in bottles shaped like Greek gods and costs more than my monthly car payment. Nicole had never bought me cologne that expensive, which meant she hadn't bought it for me. I lay in our king-sized bed, the one we'd picked out together at that furniture warehouse 3 years ago, listening to my wife of 12 years brush her teeth in the bathroom. The digital clock glowed 11:47 p.m. She'd gotten home 20 minutes ago, claiming she'd been showing a house to late clients. Real estate agents work odd hours, I told myself. Perfectly normal. Except for the cologne, and the fact that she'd taken a shower immediately after walking through the door. And the way she'd avoided eye contact when she kissed my cheek and said, "Sorry I'm so late, honey." My name is Greg Mallory, and I'm an insurance claims manager. I've spent the last 18 years of my life investigating people's stories, separating truth from fiction, finding the loose threads that unravel elaborate lies. You'd think that would make me suspicious by nature, but the opposite is true. When you spend your days catching strangers in lies, you want to believe the people you love are telling you the truth. But Nicole wasn't a stranger anymore. She was becoming one. "Greg?" Her voice drifted from the bathroom. "Are you awake?" "Yeah," I said, staring at the ceiling. "Just thinking about tomorrow's cases." She emerged from the bathroom in her silk pajamas, the burgundy ones I'd bought her last Christmas. Her blonde hair was still damp from the shower, and even in the dim light, I could see she looked different. Guilty, maybe. Or excited. It was hard to tell the difference in the dark. "Anything interesting?" she asked, sliding under the covers. "Car accident on Route 9. Guy claims his brakes failed, but the mechanic found nothing wrong with them. Says he swerved to avoid a deer." I turned toward her. Funny how people think they can create a story and make it stick, even when the evidence says otherwise. Nicole was quiet for a moment. Maybe he really did see a deer. Maybe. Or maybe he was texting and doesn't want to admit it. People lie about the strangest things, especially when they think they won't get caught. She rolled over, facing away from me. "Not everyone's lying, Greg. Sometimes things just happen." I stared at the back of her head, at the way her hair fell across the pillow. We'd been married for 12 years, together for 15. I knew every freckle on her shoulders, every habit, every tell. And right now, every instinct I'd developed as an investigator was screaming that something was wrong. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from my neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, who ran our neighborhood watch group and knew everyone's business better than they did themselves. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. Saw Nicole's car at the Marriott downtown around 9 p.m. Thought you should know in case someone stole her plates. You can never be too careful these days. The Marriott. Nicole had told me she was showing a house in Riverside, 20 miles in the opposite direction. I set the phone down carefully, my hands steadier than they had any right to be. In my line of work, you learn to compartmentalize. You gather evidence first, draw conclusions later. But as I lay there, listening to my wife's breathing slow into sleep, one thought kept echoing in my mind. I was done being the insurance guy. Time to become the claim. The next morning, Nicole was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Early showing in Westfield. Coffee's ready. Love you." I poured myself a cup and sat at our breakfast table, staring out at the backyard where we'd planted tomatoes last spring. The plants were lifeless now, destroyed by an early frost we hadn't anticipated. It felt fitting. My phone rang. Stan Kowalski, my office partner, and the closest thing I had to a best friend. "You sound like hell," he said, by way of greeting. "Thanks. You always know just what to say. Seriously, what's wrong?" "You missed your usual morning check-in email." Stan was right. For the past 5 years, I'd sent him a brief rundown of my daily cases before leaving for the office. It was a habit that started as a joke, but became routine. Reliable, predictable Greg Mallory, always on schedule. Just a rough night. Nicole's been working late a lot lately. Real estate market's hot right now. Sarah's been putting in crazy hours, too. Stan's wife was also a realtor, but she worked for a different firm. "You want to grab lunch today? That new sandwich place on Main Street?" "Sure. Meet you at noon." After hanging up, I walked to Nicole's home office, a converted spare bedroom where she kept her laptop and client files. The door was locked, which was new. Nicole had never locked her office before. I went to our bedroom and opened her jewelry box, looking for the spare key she kept hidden under the velvet lining. It wasn't there. But something else was. A receipt from Victoria's Secret, dated 3 days ago. $247 for lingerie I'd never seen. My phone buzzed. A text from Nicole. Showing ran long. Won't be home until late again. Don't wait up. It was 9:15 a.m. What kind of showing started at 9:15 a.m. and ran so long she already knew she'd be late coming home? I called my office and told them I'd be working from home, reviewing case files. Then I settled in at my kitchen table with my laptop and did what I do best. I investigated. Nicole's car was a 2019 Honda Accord with a built-in GPS system tied to her phone. As her husband, I had access to the family account. It took me 20 minutes to figure out how to check her location history. The results were interesting. Over the past 3 weeks, Nicole's car had been to the Marriott downtown 12 times, always between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m., always on days when she claimed to be showing houses to clients. But the real revelation was the pattern of stops before the hotel. Every single time, she'd first gone to a Gold's Gym on the east side of town. She'd stay there for exactly 30 minutes, then drive to the Marriott. Nicole hated gyms. She told me 1,000 times that she preferred yoga videos at home to sweating in public. So what was she doing at Gold's Gym? I grabbed my jacket and keys. Time for some field investigation. The Gold's Gym was one of those massive franchise operations with floor-to-ceiling windows and enough chrome to blind a pilot. I sat in my car across the street for 20 minutes, watching the flow of people in and out. Mostly young professionals, the kind who wore expensive workout clothes and drove cars that cost more than my annual salary. At 11:30, I walked inside and approached the front desk. A perky brunette in a tank top that probably cost more than my shoes smiled at me. Hi! Are you interested in the membership? We're running a special this month. Actually, I'm looking for someone. My wife, Nicole Mallory. She's been coming here lately, and I wanted to surprise her with a couples massage package. The girl's smile faltered slightly. Oh, Nicole. Yeah, she comes in pretty regularly, but I think she usually works out with her trainer. Trainer? Darren Pike. He's one of our senior fitness managers. Really popular with the married ladies who want to get back in shape. She said it in a way that made my stomach drop. Is Darren here today? He should be. Let me page him. 2 minutes later, a man approached the front desk who looked like he'd been carved from marble by someone with a serious Greek mythology obsession. Darren Pike was probably 35, with the kind of perfect stubble that takes an hour to achieve and arms that strained against his Gold's Gym polo shirt. You wanted to see me? His voice was deep, confident, the voice of a man who'd never doubted his own appeal. I'm Greg Mallory, Nicole's husband. His expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. A flicker of... what? Guilt? Amusement? Nicole's a great client, he said, really dedicated to her fitness goals. I'm sure she is. How long have you two been working together? About a month now. She's made incredible progress. I'll bet she has, I thought. Well, I don't want to interrupt your schedule. Just wanted to thank you for helping her get back in shape. No problem. She's a special lady. The way he said it made my hands clench into fists, but I kept my voice level, professional. She certainly is. Well, I should let you get back to work. I walked out of the gym with my heart pounding and my mind racing. Nicole wasn't just having an affair. She was having an affair with a walking Ken doll who probably bench pressed more than I weighed. But I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was still in investigation mode, gathering evidence, building a case. The anger would come later, when I had all the facts. I drove to the Marriott and parked in the lot, studying the building. It was one of those extended stay hotels with kitchenettes and weekly rates, the kind of place where people conducted business they didn't want traced back to their home addresses. My phone rang. Detective Ray Lasky, an old high school friend who joined the police force while I went into insurance. Greg, how's the civilian life treating you? Can't complain. What's up, Ray? Just wanted to give you a heads up. We had a break-in at the Riverside Shopping Center last night. Some real estate office got hit. Thought you might want to know in case any insurance claims come across your desk. Which office? Prestige Properties. Ring a bell? It did. That was Nicole's firm. Thanks for the heads up. I'll keep an eye out for any claims. After hanging up, I sat in the Marriott parking lot for another hour, watching cars come and go. At 1:15, I recognized a vehicle pulling into the lot. Nicole's Honda Accord. She parked 3 spaces away from me, but she didn't see me. She was too busy checking her makeup in the rearview mirror, too focused on the man walking across the lot toward her car. Darren Pike, still in his Gold's Gym shirt, carrying a small overnight bag. I watched my wife of 12 years get out of her car, walk into the arms of another man, and disappear into the hotel with him. That's when the anger finally came. I didn't confront Nicole that night, or the next night, or the night after that. Instead, I did what any good investigator does. I gathered more evidence. I installed a GPS tracker on her car. Perfectly legal since both our names were on the title. I started checking our phone records, our credit card statements, our bank accounts. I created a timeline of her lies, a detailed map of her deception. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. The affair with Darren had been going on for 6 weeks, not 4. She'd been using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms, lingerie, and expensive dinners. She'd even bought him a watch, a $800 fossil that she'd hidden by spreading the purchase across 3 different cards. But the real kicker was what I found on our shared cloud storage account. Nicole had been backing up her phone automatically, and she'd forgotten to change the settings. Every text message, every photo, every email was there for me to see, including the ones where she and Darren discussed their exit strategy. "Greg's so clueless," she'd written. "He has no idea what's coming. By Christmas, I'll be free, and we can finally be together properly." "What about the house?" Darren had replied. "I've already talked to my lawyer friend, Paul. If I can document some kind of emotional abuse or neglect, I can get the house and half his pension. Greg's too nice to fight dirty." Too nice to fight dirty. We'd see about that. I spent the weekend planning my response. Nicole thought she was dealing with predictable, reliable Greg, who'd roll over and accept whatever she decided to dish out. She was about to learn that insurance investigators don't get to the top of their field by being pushovers. Monday morning, Nicole left for what she claimed was an early client meeting. According to the GPS tracker, she went straight to the Marriott. I waited 30 minutes, then made my first move. I called Nicole's cell phone. She answered on the 4th ring, slightly out of breath. "Hi, honey, what's up?" "Hey, I just got a call from the insurance company. Someone reported an accident involving your car last night, around 11 p.m. Hit and run in a parking lot downtown. They need you to come in and file a report." "What? That's impossible. My car was in our garage all night." That's what I told them. But they have a witness and photos. They're saying if you don't come in voluntarily, they'll have to send an investigator to the house. I could hear the panic in her voice. "Photos of what?" "Damage to the rear bumper, apparently. And the witness got your license plate. Look, it's probably a mistake, but you know how these things work. Better to clear it up now than let it become a bigger problem." I can't come in right now. I'm in the middle of a showing." "Nicole, this is serious. Insurance fraud is a felony. If they think you're avoiding them, fine, I'll be there in an hour." She hung up. I waited exactly 90 minutes, then called the Marriott. "Hi, I'm trying to reach my wife. She's staying in room..." Actually, I'm not sure of the number. "Nicole Mallory? She's with a trainer from Gold's Gym." "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't give out guest information." "Of course. Could you just ring her room and let her know her husband called? It's a family emergency." There was a pause. "Hold on, sir." 2 minutes later, "I'm sorry, but there's no one registered under that name." "What about Darren Pike?" Another pause. "Let me transfer you to room 247. The phone rang 4 times before Darren answered. "Hello?" "Hi, Darren. This is Greg Mallory, Nicole's husband. Is my wife available?" "Darren? Are you there?" Greg. Hi. Nicole's not... She's not here." "Really? That's strange because her GPS tracker says her car is in your hotel parking lot. And the front desk just transferred me to your room when I asked for her." More silence. "Look, Darren, I know what's going on. I've known for weeks. I have photos, text messages, credit card records, the whole thing. But I'm not calling to make a scene. I'm calling to make you an offer." "An offer?" "I'm a reasonable man. Nicole wants out of our marriage, and honestly, after seeing what she's capable of, I'm not sure I want to fight for it. but I'm not going to be the chump in this scenario.
So here's what's going to happen.
I let the silence stretch out, let him sweat. Nicole's going to come home tonight and tell me she wants a divorce. She's going to be honest about the affair, and she's going to agree to a fair settlement that doesn't involve her trying to take me for everything I'm worth. In exchange, I won't file fraud charges against her for using our joint credit cards to fund her affair, and I won't send copies of her text messages to her boss, her clients, or her mother. Greg, I think you should talk to Nicole about this, not me. Oh, I will. But first, I wanted to talk to you. See, I did some research on you too, Darren. That BMW you drive? Leased, and you're 3 months behind on payments. That fancy apartment? You're getting evicted next month. And that Gold's Gym job? You're about to lose it because the regional manager found out you've been using company facilities to meet married women. How did you... I'm an investigator, Darren. It's what I do. Now, I could make your life very complicated, or I could make it very simple. Stay away from my wife until the divorce is final. Find yourself a new job and a new town, and we'll call it even. Keep seeing her, and I'll make sure everyone in this city knows exactly what kind of man you are. I hung up before he could respond. Then I drove to Nicole's office and waited in the parking lot for her to show up, panicked and confused about an insurance claim that didn't exist. This was just the beginning. Nicole came home that night ready for a fight. She'd spent 3 hours at the insurance office discovering there was no claim, no witness, no photos. She'd figured out I was on to her, and she'd decided to go on the offensive. We need to talk, she said, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter with more force than necessary. Sure, want some coffee? Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't act like everything's normal. I know what you did today. I poured myself a cup and sat down at the kitchen table. What did I do? You called the hotel. You called Darren. You've been spying on me. Spying is a strong word. I prefer investigating. It's what I do for a living, remember? She sat down across from me, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. Vulnerable, uncertain, almost afraid. Greg, I wanted to tell you. I've been trying to figure out how. How long? 6 weeks? Try again. She looked down at her hands. 3 months. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder where I'd saved screenshots of her text messages. According to this conversation with your friend Brianna, it's been going on since last spring. That's 8 months, Nicole. Her face went white. You went through my phone? I went through our shared cloud account, the one you forgot to disconnect when you started your affair. I scrolled through the messages, reading them aloud. Here's a good one. Greg is so boring in bed. Darren makes me feel alive again. Or this one. I can't wait to get rid of Greg and start my real life. Stop. Or my personal favorite, Greg's such a loser. He has no idea I'm planning to take him for everything he's worth. Nicole was crying now, but I felt nothing. The man who would have comforted her, who would have tried to work things out, had died somewhere between the Marriott parking lot and reading about his wife's plan to destroy him. I never meant for it to happen, she whispered. But it did happen. For 8 months. And you were planning to lie about it, take half of everything I've worked for, and leave me looking like the fool who never saw it coming. What do you want, Greg? I want a divorce. A fair divorce. 50-50 split of assets, no alimony, no false accusations, no drama. You get to keep your dignity, and I get to keep my pension. And if I don't agree, I turned my laptop around so she could see the screen. I'd created a folder with every piece of evidence I'd gathered. Photos, text messages, credit card statements, GPS logs, hotel receipts. Then I send this to your boss, your clients, your mother, and anyone else who might find it interesting. I also file fraud charges for your use of our joint credit cards, and I make sure Darren loses his job and his apartment. Your choice. She stared at the screen for a long moment. You bastard. I learned from the best. She left that night, claiming she was going to stay with her friend Brianna while we figured things out. I knew she was really going to the Marriott, but I didn't care anymore. Let her have her fantasy romance. It wouldn't last long once Darren realized she wasn't going to be his meal ticket. The next morning, I called Stan and asked him to meet me for lunch. I needed to talk to someone, and Stan had been my friend for over a decade. We met at Murphy's Pub, a dive bar that served surprisingly good burgers and minded its own business. Stan took one look at me and ordered 2 beers. Okay, spill it. I told him everything, the affair, the evidence, the confrontation. Stan listened without interrupting, occasionally shaking his head or muttering under his breath. Jesus, Greg. I'm sorry. I had no idea. Nobody did. She's been very careful. So what happens now? Divorce. She'll agree to the terms because she doesn't have a choice. Stan was quiet for a moment. You know Sarah and I are friends with Nicole. This is going to be awkward. I know. I mean, we'll support you, obviously. You're my partner. But Sarah and Nicole have been close for years. Something in his tone made me look up from my beer. But nothing. It's just, this is going to split up our whole social circle. The Hendersons, the Pratts, the Williamses, everyone's going to have to choose sides. I'm not asking anyone to choose sides. Come on, Greg. You know how this works. In a divorce, everyone chooses sides whether they want to or not. He was right, and over the next 2 weeks, I learned exactly how right he was. It started with small things, invitations that stopped coming, texts that went unanswered, awkward silences when I ran into mutual friends at the grocery store. The breaking point came at Tom Henderson's birthday party. Nicole and I had been friends with Tom and his wife Janet for 8 years. We'd vacationed together, spent countless weekends at their lake house, considered them family. I almost didn't go to the party, but Stan convinced me it would look bad if I stayed home. You can't let her isolate you from your friends, he said. So I went, and I walked into a room full of people who looked at me like I'd committed a crime. Nicole was there, of course, playing the role of the wronged wife to perfection. She'd lost weight, probably from stress, and she was wearing a black dress that made her look fragile and sympathetic. She was surrounded by the wives, all of them shooting daggers at me with their eyes. Greg! Tom approached me with a beer and a forced smile. Glad you could make it. Thanks for inviting me. Listen, I don't know what's going on between you and Nicole, and I don't want to know. But Janet's pretty upset about the whole thing. What whole thing? Tom looked uncomfortable. Nicole said you've been difficult about the separation. Difficult how? Threatening her. Following her around. She's scared, Greg. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She said I threatened her? Look, I'm not taking sides, but maybe you should give her some space while you work things out. I looked across the room at Nicole, who was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, while Brianna rubbed her back. She glanced up and met my eyes for a moment, and I saw something there that chilled me to the bone. She wasn't just leaving me. She was destroying me. I think I'll head home, I told Tom. Probably for the best. As I walked toward the door, I heard Janet Henderson's voice, pitched just loud enough for me to hear. I never liked him. Always seemed controlling. I drove home in a rage that surprised me with its intensity. Nicole wasn't content to just end our marriage. She was systematically poisoning every relationship I had, turning our friends against me, making me the villain in her story. But two could play that game, and I was better at it than she was. The final confrontation came on a Friday night at Murphy's Pub, the same place where Stan and I had talked 2 months earlier, but this time, Stan wasn't on my side. I'd spent those 2 months watching my social circle collapse. One by one, our mutual friends had chosen Nicole's version of events over mine. The story she was telling painted me as a controlling, emotionally abusive husband who'd driven her into the arms of another man through years of neglect and manipulation. It was a masterful performance, and it might have worked if she hadn't made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated how thorough I could be when I set my mind to it. I'd used every skill I'd developed as an investigator to dig into the lives of everyone involved. Nicole, Darren, Brianna, even Paul the lawyer who was helping her plan the divorce strategy. What I found was a web of lies, financial problems, and secrets that went far deeper than a simple affair. The confrontation was arranged through Stan, who called me that Friday afternoon. Greg, we need to talk. All of us. Who's us? Me, Tom, Janet, the Pratts, the Williamses, and Nicole. An intervention. A conversation. Things have gotten out of hand, and we want to clear the air. I almost said no. Almost decided to just walk away from all of them and start over somewhere else. But then I thought about Nicole, sitting in that hotel room with Darren, planning how to destroy my life while spending my money. Murphy's Pub, 8 o'clock, I said. Greg, I don't think a bar is the right place for this kind of conversation. It's perfect. See you there. I arrived at 7:45 and took a table in the back corner where I could see the entire room. Murphy's was busy for a Friday night, filled with blue-collar workers unwinding from their week and college kids starting their weekend early. They came in as a group: Stan and Sarah, Tom and Janet Henderson, Mike and Lisa Pratt, Dave and Karen Williams. Nicole arrived last, flanked by Brianna and a man I didn't recognize but assumed was Paul the lawyer. They arranged themselves around 2 tables pushed together, with Nicole at the far end and me at the other. It looked like a parole hearing. Tom Henderson, elected spokesman by some process I hadn't been part of, cleared his throat. Greg, we're all here because we care about you and Nicole. This situation has gotten out of hand, and we think it's time for everyone to be honest about what's really going on. I agree, I said. Let's be honest. Nicole spoke up, her voice soft and wounded. Greg, I know you're angry about the separation, but telling people I'm having an affair isn't going to solve anything. I'm not telling people you're having an affair, Nicole. I'm telling them you've been having an affair for 8 months with Darren Pike, a personal trainer from Gold's Gym who's facing eviction and bankruptcy. The table went quiet. Janet Henderson looked shocked. Nicole, you said there was no affair. There isn't, Nicole said quickly. Greg's been following me around, taking pictures, making up stories. He's become obsessed. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. Would you like me to play the voicemail you left for Darren last Tuesday? The one where you're discussing which hotel to meet at? Nicole's face went pale. You've been recording my private conversations? I've been documenting evidence of adultery and financial fraud. Speaking of which, Brianna, how much money has Nicole borrowed from you in the past 3 months? Brianna looked startled. What? Nicole's been telling everyone I cut off her access to money, but our bank records show she's been spending freely. So where's the money coming from for her new apartment, her new clothes, her hotel rooms? I don't see how that's anyone's business, Brianna said, but her voice was shaky. It becomes everyone's business when she's borrowing money under false pretenses. See, I did some checking. Nicole told you I was hiding assets and refusing to pay for basic necessities, but I have bank records showing she spent over $8,000 in the past 2 months on non-essential items, including a $800 watch for her boyfriend. I turned to Paul. And you, counselor, how much are you charging Nicole for legal advice on a divorce that she's planning to finance through fraud? Paul straightened up. I don't know what you're implying, but I'm implying that you've been helping my wife hide assets and plan false accusations against me in exchange for legal fees she can't afford to pay. I have copies of your text messages discussing strategy. That's privileged communication, not when it involves planning to commit perjury in family court. The table erupted in confused voices, everyone talking at once. Stan held up his hands for quiet. Greg, even if Nicole made some mistakes, that doesn't justify the way you've been acting. Following her around, threatening her. When did I threaten her? She said you told her you'd ruin her life if she left you. I looked directly at Nicole. Is that what you told them? She lifted her chin defiantly. You did say that. What I said was that if you tried to destroy my reputation with false accusations, I'd defend myself with the truth. There's a difference. I stood up and walked to the bar, where Murphy himself was pulling beers. Hey Murphy, can you turn up the sound system for a minute? I want everyone to hear something. Murphy looked confused, but reached for the volume control. The Friday night crowd quieted down as I connected my phone to the bar's Bluetooth speaker. This is a recording from Nicole's phone, automatically backed up to our shared cloud account. It was made 3 weeks ago. Nicole's voice filled the bar, crystal clear. The plan is working perfectly. Greg looks like the crazy, controlling husband, and I look like the victim. Paul says if I can document some kind of emotional abuse, I can get the house and half his pension. Greg's too stupid to fight back effectively. Darren's voice responded. What if he finds out about the recordings you're making? He won't. He's too trusting. By the time this is over, he'll be lucky to get visitation rights to his own bank account. Both of them laughed. The bar was silent. At our table, faces ranged from shocked to horrified to embarrassed. Nicole was staring at me with pure hatred. You bastard, she whispered. There's more, I said. Would you like to hear the part where you and Brianna discuss planting evidence in my computer to make it look like I was cheating? Or the conversation where Paul explains how to fake domestic violence photos? Brianna stood up abruptly. I'm not listening to this. Sit down, I said, and something in my voice made her freeze. We're not finished. I walked back to the table, and everyone was staring at me like they'd never seen me before. Maybe they hadn't. Nicole, You made one critical mistake in all of this. You assumed I was the same pushover you've been married to for 12 years. The guy who'd let you walk all over him rather than make a scene. But here's the thing about insurance investigators. We don't just find the truth. We document it, preserve it, and present it in a way that destroys false claims. I pulled out a manila folder and set it on the table. This contains copies of every text message, every email, every financial transaction, and every lie you've told in the past 8 months. It also contains evidence of your conspiracy to commit perjury, your misuse of joint financial accounts, and your attempt to defraud the family court system. Nicole was shaking now. What do you want? I want you to stand up in front of all these people and tell them the truth. Tell them you've been having an affair for 8 months. Tell them you've been lying about me to turn our friends against me. Tell them you've been planning to destroy my life for money. And if I don't, then I send copies of everything to your boss, your real estate licensing board, your mother, and the district attorney's office. Your choice. The silence stretched out for what felt like hours. Finally, Nicole stood up, tears streaming down her face. It's true, she said. All of it. I've been having an affair with Darren Pike. I've been lying about Greg. I've been planning to take him for everything he's worth. She looked around the table at our former friends. And you all believed me, because it was easier than asking questions. You wanted to see Greg as the villain because it made you feel better about your own marriages. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I hope you're happy, Greg. You've destroyed everything. No, I called after her. You destroyed everything. I just made sure everyone knew who was really responsible. After she left, the table sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Tom Henderson spoke up. Greg, we owe you an apology. No, you don't. You believed the story that made the most sense based on the information you had. But next time, maybe ask for both sides before you pick a team. I stood up and dropped a 20 on the table. The drinks are on me. Consider it my farewell gift. Where are you going? Stan asked. Somewhere new. This town's got too many bad memories now. As I walked toward the door, I heard Murphy calling out over the sound system. Last call for anyone who wants to hear the rest of these recordings. Lady's got quite a mouth on her. The entire bar erupted in laughter. I walked out into the cool night air, got in my car, and drove home to start packing. The divorce would be final in 30 days. Nicole would get exactly what she deserved, and I'd be free to start over somewhere else. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's always satisfying. That is fine. 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 That is fine.